Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to thank staff and all of our guests today for making themselves available, not just today, but in the days leading up to this meeting. I know that it took a lot of your time and you worked very hard to get here, but I want to tell you I am extremely thrilled with the proposal that you've brought forward. I think it is more innovative and will be more effective than any of the waitlists or registries that we have read about in other cities and other communities. And by the benefit of not going first, we have been able to identify what are things that we don't want to happen with this waitlist and what are hurdles that we need to plan for. So again, I want to thank you, Dr. Bridger, Dr. Kurian, Craig, as well. I told Craig, we only see you when we've screwed up with our IT security. It's really nice to see you outside of that. So a couple of comments. I also want to extend a big thank you to this informal work group that we have with the Southside vaccination centers, with the WellMed vaccination centers. That includes my colleagues, Councilwoman Villagran and Councilwoman Rocha Garcia, and Teresa from Shirley's office, as well as Dr. Lisa Ochoa, and of course Major General Jimmy Keenan, who is a tremendous force to be reckoned with, who is running those two sites, possibly more, like they are a very tight ship. And I'd be remiss if I did not thank George from UHS, who is a resident and neighbor in District 7, who's always available by phone, by text, to answer my questions and to set me straight if I'm if I'm coming up with something that's a little bit too crazy. So I know that the talk of waitlists or registry has probably been happening ever since we've experienced crashes or long times on the phone, and for very valid reasons, our staff has had recommended up until recently that not to move in that direction, and we were also under the impression that we'd have more vaccines soon. But given the mismatch in eligibility and vaccine availability, we really needed to, that changes the landscape really that we're operating under. So thank you for recognizing that. When we brought this up at a session, when Councilman Courage brought this up at a session, and we sent it to check, I do want to share with you that we had a very fruitful conversation with the major vaccine providers. And I think any member of that committee and presenter that day can share with you that there was a lot of great information exchange, and there was a commitment to continue collaborating together. And there was an acknowledgement that the sign-up process was difficult. And I especially want to thank Bob from UT Health for really bringing up the idea of how do we reach vulnerable populations and asking for our assistance with that. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized that is something that we can help the vaccine providers with, and we're in a good position to do that. I also want to say that it was really a conversation that I had with Bob that kind of turned the light bulb on for me when he said, you know, we're talking about two different problems. One of them is the vaccine supply problem, but the other one is really the experience for the public and the individual. And I want to be clear that this whole time, I think that's what we're trying to solve as council members. We've heard a lot from our constituents, even the ones who have already gotten their vaccines, about how much they struggled, and they don't want other people to have to go through that. There was an elderly couple at WellMed, and I promise I'm going to make this one interesting. The day that I volunteered there in January, and all the seniors were so cute and just very grateful for getting their vaccines. And the team at WellMed does a wonderful job of making everyone feel cared for and like they're part of the family there. And I asked them how long they'd waited on the phone, and they said, well, we watched, each of us had our phones, and we each were dialing while we watched two movies back to back. And then we got in. And they said this with a tremendous excitement, as if they had won the lottery. So as adorable as that was, I think we need to recognize that when it comes to vaccines, which can be a life or death instrument, we don't want people to have to play the lottery with that. We really want to be able to give them something that's not a lottery. So just a couple of last points before we close out and I make a motion for approval. I want to be clear that what we're adopting today is authorizing staff to move forward with this pilot. It's not a silver bullet. It will not bring us more vaccines. That is done separately. It is another tool for our residents over 65 to be able to use so that we streamline our registration process. Residents can still go to online methods or can still call 311. We'll still be able to call other numbers. That's totally fine. But every resident that comes through this portal is one less person that is crashing a website somewhere else. So again, I want to thank everyone and thank those of you who signed the 3-signature memo to bring this topic forward. While we could have waited to go back to check to talk about it, given the announcement by the governor, it really was urgent to get council support and approval so we could get rolling on this. So with that, so thank you, Councilman Courage and Councilwoman Villagrán for that. So with that, I move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Sandoval.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been very instructive to hear my colleagues' comments. I think for those of us who have been very involved in the distribution, you know, personally working to try to set up a site, to try to ensure that lists of people somehow get into a system, an entirely fragmented and decentralized system right now, I can see the value in this. And there are many things that our city does that aren't absolutely necessary, and we do them because we want to be better, right? We want to deliver to our residents. As far as District 7 residents and community members that I've interacted with as early as this week, I mean, I took a poll at a recent neighborhood association meeting. It was unanimous. There must be some sort of list or registry. That's what I'm hearing, and that is why I'm fighting for this here at council. I also just wanted to give a shout out to the work that they do at WellMed. Sonia Garza, whom we just appointed to the Ready to Work Advisory Committee, is the person who's out there with a loudspeaker telling people to stay in their cars or come out of your cars when your time has come. So they do a great job about that. I also failed to mention the pivotal role played by Bexar County Medical Society and Dr. Lisa Ochoa, who sits on their board. So Dr. Lisa Ochoa basically came to our work group and said, if you have lists of people who need vaccines, I've got, I'm connected with UT Health. They've got the vaccines, and I've got the volunteers, students, medical students, who are going to make the phone calls. What we need are the lists of people. So we're scrambling, trying to get lists together to her. We get her stuff, and this has happened with multiple providers, not just Dr. Ochoa. And sometimes we don't have the right information that they need. For instance, I collected ages. I didn't collect dates of birth, right? So that meant a whole other go back and call to get that information. So having this centralized system is going to help my office, right? Because we do a lot of this informal work. And the truth is, it can be done by technology and in a consistent way. So why would we say no to that? The other thing I want to point out that's actually brilliant about this, two things, is that by having HASA come forward. Lisa Ochoa connected us to HASA because she said, we're going to host the list. Because we were having those problems, she said, we're going to host the list on some special software that HASA has. And when she said that, we asked her, well, wait a minute, that sounds great. HASA sounds fantastic. What if we also did a community-wide one, not just for UT Health? So really it was Lisa Ochoa, BCMS, and that UT Health idea that brought this concept to us. And it puts the ownership with HASA to some extent, instead of any of the major vaccine providers who right now are up to their eyeballs in vaccine distribution. And really, probably the last thing they need is another database to manage or another burden right now. And what it does is it helps us basically have a shovel-ready list of patients to get their vaccines for when we do have vaccines available, instead of having a scramble. HASA was really the piece of the puzzle that was missing this whole time. So we're so glad that they've joined us in this. I do have one question for city staff. One thing that we wanted was, could something be underway before the next round of vaccine signups opens up, right? That's really where we hear a lot of the tension from our residents happening, like sites crashing and such. When do we foresee that next happening at the Alamo Dome, where like a big amount of appointments will become available?
We just opened up 3 weeks worth of appointments, which takes us through May 1st. So it's not any time soon. I would estimate 2 to 3 weeks before we open up massive amounts of appointments in the future.
All right, thank you. Thank you.